happen to me. However, I did witness this incident, and it creeps me out to this day. Back in junior high school, there was this popular kid named Ryan that used to bully me and tons of other people in our school. Ryan was the type of kid that thought he was the best in the world because he was captain of the football team. The kid that bullied nerds and cheated on his girlfriends. You know the type. Ryan's father ran an automotive parts store. His specialty was paint jobs and window tinting. He had many vehicles, but his favorite was a dark blue truck with orange and yellow flames on the front. It also had tinted windows and spinning hubcaps on the wheels. Ryan's father often wore the same team jersey as his son's team jersey, a red and white hat and blue jeans. As you continue reading, you will soon discover the details of this particular truck, as well as its owner, are very important. One day, on my way to my next class, I fell downstairs and sprained my ankle. I ended up limping to the nurse's office, calling my dad to come pick me up. After I sat in the waiting area looking out for my dad's car, about 5 minutes after I left the nurse's office, Ryan walked into the waiting area and sat down. Bored out of his mind, Ryan decided to talk to me while we were waiting for our dads to pick us up. I guess he felt safe talking to a nerd since his friends weren't around, so I begrudgingly decided to be polite with him and made small talk. About 5 minutes or so later, Ryan looked out at the glass doors and saw his father's truck pulling up into the entrance of the school. Ryan said, "See you later, man," picked up his backpack and headed towards the glass doors. He was about to push the door open when suddenly stopped and paused. When I asked him what was wrong, Ryan explained to me that his father usually picked him up later, and that he usually parked his truck right next to the glass door. Instead, Ryan's dad was 20 minutes early. The truck was right next to the flagpoles, which were much farther away, and that the hubcaps appeared to be different and didn't even spin. After a few minutes of this, Ryan's cell phone then went off. Ryan, at this point, simply assumed that it was his dad calling and didn't pick it up. So he walked out to the door headed towards the truck. I decided to take a nap while I waited for my own dad to pick me up. Suddenly, I heard what sounded like an older man yelling and Ryan screaming. I looked out the window only to see Ryan flailing his arms and an older man trying to pull him into the truck. Because of my ankle, I couldn't run to Ryan's aid, so I shouted to the nurse as well as to some other staff members to get help. One of the nurses immediately called the police. A couple of secretaries ran towards the truck to help Ryan. Upon seeing the secretaries running toward him, the creep shoved Ryan away and climbed further into his truck. The guy sped off and disappeared into the intersection that led into a nearby highway. Ryan at this point was crying in pain, mainly because the guy had pepper sprayed him. The secretaries helped pour Ryan to his feet and guide him into the nurse's office. About a few minutes later, the police, along with Ryan's father, arrived. The police, as well as an ambulance, tended to Ryan while a couple of police officers interviewed me and other witnesses. Because I was the only student that witnessed this, the police, as well as Ryan's dad, asked me to stay in touch and hang out with Ryan, so that he could have a shoulder to lean on and recover emotionally. So I swallowed my pride and gave Ryan my phone number. From that day forward, Ryan was a completely different person. The same person who used to body slam me into lockers was now in constant fear and using my body as a shield instead of a punching bag. There wasn't any day at school where Ryan wasn't around me. He was especially clingy and paranoid when it came to having his dad pick him up. I would have to hold his hand and stay there until his dad came around. It even got to the point where Ryan would call me every night and vent his fears, as well as update me on what the police would find. And many of the details about this were very, very creepy. For instance, the creep, whoever he was, not only knew where Ryan went to school and when he got picked up, he even knew which vehicle Ryan's dad drove whenever he picked up his son from school. So he decided to imitate everything about Ryan's father. That's right, the creep actually went through the trouble of painting his own truck the same color as his father's Ryan, just to fool and lure Ryan. He even dressed up like Ryan's dad. Ryan even said to me that the disguise was so convincing that it wasn't until he looked the creep in the eye that he realized that he wasn't his father. Yet things got even creepier the more Ryan told me, the more the police department found. As it turns out, the creep also knew Ryan's cell phone number, but wasn't the one who called Ryan. Ryan told me that the police said that the mysterious number belonged to a payphone at the nearby gas station, so the creep in the truck wouldn't have possibly called Ryan, meaning that not one but two people may have been involved in this. Despite having video surveillance, license plate, and a description of the driver, the police never found the guy or his gas station buddy. Even when the creep continued to terrorize Ryan and his dad, about 3 months after the truck incident, Ryan called me in the middle of the night, this time in hysterics. Someone had thrown several Molotov cocktails at Ryan's house. A couple of them even hit and shattered a window and set part of his house on fire. About a month after the Molotov cocktails were thrown, someone, most likely the same creep, set fire to Ryan's father's business. Ryan and his father moved out of the area not long after. The creep also disappeared, leaving everyone else to wonder just who the creep was. Was the creep a disgruntled parent or relative of the student that Ryan bullied? Was he the enraged parent or relative of one of Ryan's many ex-girlfriends? Was he a parent of a rival team member? Was he a dissatisfied customer of Ryan's father, or was he just some random creep that liked to terrorize teenage boys? The possibilities as to who this was and why he, as well as his accomplice, would target Ryan were endless. With Ryan now gone, I quickly found myself getting very frightened over the possibility of the same creep going after me. For a long time, I was super paranoid about the creep going after me. From that day forward, I refused to be picked up from school, no matter how sick or hurt I was. All because I feared some creep was going to do the same thing to me. Even to this day, the whole incident sends shivers down my spine.